Adverse Effects of Tourism in Kashmir. The Gulmarg Development Authority recently organised an ecotourism conclave at Gulmarg to discuss and deliberate on overcoming irresponsible tourism practices. The newly posted CEO of Gulmarg Development Authority, Mr. Raja Wasim, is very much concerned about these issues and has sought cooperation from tourism players to make Gulmarg a sustainable tourist destination.
He said that illegal constructions and unscientific waste management are his two big challenges, which he wants to address in the coming months.
Chairman of the Ecotourism Society of Kashmir, Samir Bokhtu, welcomed the participants, who were mostly hoteliers, travel agents, media persons and government officials. He urged them to join hands in preserving Gulmarg.
The Vice-Chancellor of Central University of Kashmir, Professor A. Ravindranath, who was the chief guest on the occasion, laid emphasis on strengthening sustainable tourism practices and assured that the Central University of Kashmir would collaborate with the Gulmarg Development Authority and other stakeholders on building capacities of the students vis-à-vis ecotourism. He said that the Central University of Kashmir already has a separate Department of Tourism Studies which works under the School of Business Studies. He said the department can work in collaboration with the Gulmarg Development Authority, tourist players and NGOs, and send their students for internships as well.
Executive Member, Kashmir Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and past President, Travel Agents Association of Kashmir, Farooq Kuthu, Perzada Fayaz, past President, Tak, Nadeem Kadri, Legal Advisor, Ecotourism Society of Kashmir, Zahur Kari, past Chairman, Travel Agents Association of India, JK Chapter, Akram Saya, President, Travel Agents Society of Kashmir, Shamim Shah, Travel Agents Federation of India, JK Chapter Head, Noor Mohammed Shanglu, JK Tourism Alliance Chairman, and officials from the Army also spoke on the occasion and voiced their concern about Gulmarg. Cape Town Declaration. Responsible tourism practices are now discussed and debated across the world for the last few decades. Responsible tourism focuses on respecting the tourism destination's environment, community and culture. The participants in the Gulmarg Ecotourism Conclave were fully focused on responsible tourism, as it aims to correct the adverse effects caused by irresponsible mass tourism. Sustainable tourism and the government strategy. The Government of India has in fact come up with a national strategy for sustainable tourism last year, wherein thrust has been given on sustainable tourism. The sustainable tourism, or green tourism, takes into account current and future economic, social and environmental impacts. It addresses the needs of visiting tourists, the tourism industry, the environment and host communities. The policy document on the National Strategy for Sustainable Tourism, prepared by the Ministry of Tourism through an office memorandum dated April 29, 2022, reads, "The National Strategy for Sustainable Tourism aims to mainstream sustainability in the Indian tourism sector and ensure a more resilient, inclusive, carbon-neutral and resource-efficient tourism while safeguarding natural and cultural resources." Responsible tourism practices cannot be achieved unless we become responsible citizens. The tourists, hoteliers, cab drivers, restaurant owners, shopkeepers and all other tourism players, along with the government, have to show their responsibility towards green tourism. To make Gulmarg a better winter tourism destination, we, as responsible citizens and tourists, need to act responsibly. Let us not carry any plastic bags or food items with us to Gulmarg. The local shopkeepers and hoteliers must also minimise the use of plastic. The hotels must process their food waste by installing small organic waste composters, OWCs, which are not so expensive at all. The only thing is we need a behavioural change. The Gulmarg Development Authority must initiate introducing battery-operated all-terrain vehicles, ATVs, and battery cabs in Gulmarg. Millions of tourists are attracted to Kashmir's breathtaking landscapes, but their unchecked inflow degrades the area's fragile ecosystem. A local ecotourism initiative offers a promising but imperfect solution.
David Finn, A 70-year-old Englishman has been visiting Kashmir regularly over the past 30 years to find solace in the tranquility of its landscape. This year, having lost one of his lungs to cancer, Finn travelled there once again to recuperate. "Look at Kashmir," he marvelled at the mountain range surrounding him as he spoke to Fair Planet. But he expressed concern about the growing number of tourists and its disastrous consequences on the local ecosystem. "Do not destroy the environment if you are coming here," he said, adding that he had observed tourists carelessly discarding trash in public and in nature.
Kashmir has experienced a 3-year surge in tourism, with roughly 18 million visitors in the past year alone. But while this influx has been viewed as a welcome economic boost for the local area, it also represents a substantial threat to the region's delicate environment. Many of the region's popular tourist spots are currently grappling with overcrowding, reaching their maximum capacity and experiencing a surge in litter due to the sheer volume of tourists. A substantial portion of this waste finds its way into rivers or forests due to inadequate waste management facilities. Moreover, unregulated construction, increased traffic and human interference are contributing to the destruction of ecosystems that are vital for both plant and animal life. The area most affected is Pahalgam, with tourists leaving behind approximately 20 metric tons of litter in its vicinity daily. The inadequate waste management infrastructure in the region leads to a significant portion of this litter, particularly plastic, making its way into forests and rivers. At the same time, the rise in both traffic and construction activities is diminishing the available pristine habitats for local flora and fauna. Riaz Qureshi, who leads the Department of Tourism at Kashmir University, openly recognized the substantial environmental concerns posed by tourism in the area. Speaking to Fair Planet, he stressed the urgency of raising awareness among the general population regarding the detrimental effects of tourism and advocating for eco-friendly or sustainable tourism practices. He underscored several key issues, including the use of plastic in sensitive ecosystems, unregulated construction and development near water bodies and riverbanks, all of which have a harmful impact on the environment. Notably, the existing waste treatment facility at Pahalgam's tourist destination, with its limited capacity of 10 metric tons, is insufficient to address the needs. But the government has proposed a solution and intends to enhance the facilities at this location.
We are planning to set up 2 more waste treatment facilities to cater to the increasing waste generation in Pahalgam.
Amid these rising concerns, Sag Eco Village emerged as a locally developed solution. Nestled between the mountains of central Kashmir and on the foothills of River Sindh, this village, which is a for-profit initiative, champions a sustainable way of life girded on principles of ecotourism and a zero-waste policy. A decade ago, Fayaz Ahmad Dar, in collaboration with several like-minded activists, established Sag Village in Gandarbal, a district which, unlike other parts of Kashmir, has managed to preserve its distance from mass tourism. Dar, an entrepreneur and former farmer, integrated local residents into the initiative from the very beginning and currently employs 15 locals in his village. Notably, all the produce in his garden is organic, in alignment with the village's name, Sag, a Kashmiri term that means nurture.
All the farming that you see here is natural. We have our own composting program, including a composting program for human waste, which is functional and a rarity in today's development. The buildings we have built in our village use local materials and traditional cultural designs, which are more environmentally and health-friendly. The food we serve is made from natural ingredients and traditional recipes. We also use some traditional recipes and foods to preserve some of the produce from the farm, such as pickles, jams, and dried items.
Tourists come to the village seeking a taste of a more sustainable and natural way of life, along with the opportunity to savour locally grown traditional Kashmiri cuisine. But the area draws both locals and tourists alike. For the locals, it symbolises a return to the traditional, uncomplicated and natural way of living that they've gradually departed from over the years. Dar further expressed his mission of reintroducing the inherent concepts of connectedness and integratedness, which are found in nature and the design of life, into our daily lifestyle.
Everything is connected, and everything affects everything else. So at the core of all these problems that we are seeing, plastic, environmental degradation, water depletion, or the oceans getting dirty, it is a symptom. All of these symptoms will lead back to the alienation of a human being from their own selves and the environment.
Dar claimed that the entire area, spanning approximately 1.5 acres, was formerly arid and overgrown. He explained that they transformed it progressively by clearing thorns and rocks, replacing them with trees and plants, and constructing structures using the rocks they had removed.
The farming practices here are fully organic, and their composting schemes, which include one for human waste and are unusual in modern agriculture, complement this. The infrastructure work and operational roles are managed by locals.
Dar further emphasized their dedication to lowering imports and pointed out that the village is working to maintain a staff and product base that is 90% local.
The expenses associated with implementing sustainable technologies and practices might render the eco-village less accessible to lower-income individuals, which could in turn create socio-economic disparities within the community.
Plastic pollution threatens tourism in Kashmir border areas. The locals complained that a significant amount of waste was thrown by tourists in open spaces, and there were no waste disposal facilities in these areas. Thousands of tourists from various parts of the country and abroad visiting border tourist spots in Kashmir is leading to the environmental impact, as a significant amount of waste is thrown in open spaces. In the last 2 years, Keran, Bangus, Tangdar, Gurez and Uri, along the line of control in North Kashmir, have witnessed a tourist boom after the February 2021 ceasefire agreement between Indo-Pak armies. These areas were otherwise out of bounds for the visitors. The locals complained that a significant amount of waste was thrown by tourists in open spaces, and there were no waste disposal facilities in these areas. Firdoos added that youngsters arrive at these picnic spots with tents, arrange campfires, but unfortunately leave behind a trail of bottles and food waste on the premises. Fayaz Ahmad, a local of Tangdar who runs a homestay facility, said he has been requesting the tourists not to throw waste plastic and other garbage in open spaces. Fayaz Ahmad Dar as Fayaz Ahmad. We cannot afford to lose tourists as our livelihoods depend on it. There is a need to educate tourists and locals about the need to curb plastic usage and ensure proper disposal. Garbage dumping will threaten the livelihood of hundreds of people as natural beauty that attracts tourists will collapse. However, the tourists have complained of the absence of basic amenities at these locations, particularly the lack of dustbins. They said either proper dustbins should be set up for the convenience of visitors, or alternatively, prominent warning signs should be installed to discourage any form of waste disposal. Mriganka, a visitor from Delhi, said she had come to revel in the beauty of the hills of Kashmir. But what troubled me are the piles of trash scattered around. People need to realize their responsibility of preserving nature, she said, and added a small step that tourists and trekkers can take is to carry their plastic waste and food packet wrappers with them. UN agencies at COP27 on November 10, 2022, estimated that approximately 75% of all plastic produced in the world eventually becomes waste. How Kashmir's famed mountain resorts are being turned into heavily polluted concrete jungles. Reckless construction and lack of waste management have wrecked the fragile ecosystems of Sonamarg, Pahalgam and Gulmarg. If anything is emblematic of the lack of proper planning for tourism management and disregard for Kashmir's ecological resources, it is the master plan for infrastructure development in one of the valley's stunning mountain resorts, Sonamarg. The plan has been designed after 96% of the built-up area has already been brought under construction without required planning and without meeting even half the infrastructural requirements envisaged by Sonamarg Development Authority, which looks after tourism development at this resort. Sonamarg, the Golden Meadow, is about 85 kilometers northeast of Jammu and Kashmir's summer capital Srinagar. It is a very precarious and awkward situation that the extent of built-up area for the development of infrastructural facilities envisaged under the master plan to be attained by 2025 has already been attained in 2015. Kashmir University's Centre of Research and Development has pointed out in its Environment Impact Assessment of the master plan. According to the Research Centre's report, about 57.5 hectares of land has already been brought under the built-up area when the total area proposed to be under built-up by 2025 is about 60 hectares. It means that 96% of the built-up area has already been covered, although the accommodation-related infrastructure, which was envisaged to get developed in the built-up area, is lagging far behind, the report states. The master plan, the report adds, envisaged the creation of around 9,447 beds in hotels, huts and such, excluding tented accommodation of 2,500 beds and guest house accommodation of 500 beds. But the bed capacity is only 1,412. Accordingly, there is little scope for further infrastructure development in the area, the report notes. If it is allowed to get executed, it would have an adverse impact on the scenic beauty of the area and would affect the sustainability of the tourism in the area. Besides objecting to other environmentally hazardous proposed measures, the report has objected to the Sonamarg Development Authority's proposal to create a car parking in the vicinity of Thajwas Glacier, a delight for nature lovers and trekkers. It remains to be seen whether these objections will be respected in the long run, as this resort has already suffered significant ecological degradation. Still a paradise, Kashmir has acquired much fame for its natural beauty, because of the breathtaking splendour of its mountains, glaciers, meadows, lush valleys and water bodies. When India's 17th century Mughal Emperor Jahangir first came to Kashmir, he was mesmerized by the beauty of the land to such an extent that he termed it paradise on earth. If there is paradise on earth, it is this, it is this, it is this. Ever since, this lyrical outburst has served better to eulogize Kashmir's ecological wealth. Over the years, Kashmir's meadows, lush valleys and water bodies have charmed millions of tourists, though the armed violence in the region, which started in 1989, meant that Kashmir had hardly any visitors for years together. It is only over the past few years that armed violence is on the wane, and tourism is gradually returning to Kashmir, although it faces frequent setbacks, with the valley often erupting into protest demonstrations as Kashmiris ask New Delhi to address their political demands. The revival of tourism has generated hope for around 500,000 people who are directly or indirectly involved in the valley's tourism industry. But the haphazard construction that the tourism boom is leading to, especially at the famed mountain resorts of Sonamarg, Pahalgam and Gulmarg, is threatening to turn Kashmir into a lost paradise. Green expanses turn concrete. There has hardly been any planning in the construction process at Kashmir's tourism destinations. Infrastructure made out of concrete has come up at the most unlikely places, and most hotels try to maximize the number of rooms, even if they block the best views of the Himalayan peaks in the process. There is a consensus among experts, government officials and common citizens of Kashmir that the three major resort towns, Sonamarg, Pahalgam and Gulmarg, are being turned into concrete jungles. Environmental experts maintain that construction should have been prohibited at these resorts, but the government has not only allowed construction of hotels right on the most scenic spots, but has also failed to provide adequate disposal systems for solid and liquid waste. Even if some construction was necessary for tourism development, it should have been carried out in harmony with nature, said Samuel Abbat, who teaches environmental science at Kashmir University. What we are seeing is that in the name of mountain tourism, we have ended up turning our mountains into concrete jungles. In 2012, the state's Department of Ecology, Environment and Remote Sensing had warned that immediate measures needed to be taken to undo the environmental damage caused by unplanned construction at Sonamarg. While development of modern infrastructure is of paramount importance for meeting the needs of the tourism industry, It is important to design such development in an eco-friendly fashion to preserve and conserve the fragile ecology and environment of Sonamarg, the department had warned. The development that has already taken place at Sonamarg, or is in progress, has adversely impacted ecology and environment. The waste generated by hundreds of thousands of tourists is thrown around without any treatment or scientific management. All untreated effluents, the department pointed out, find their way into the Indus stream, which straddles Sonamarg. This causes extensive pollution in the river because no sewage treatment plant is in place, it said. 6 years down the line, the situation has only worsened. The report of the Centre for Research and Development identifies a number of problems plaguing the tourist resort. For one, about 5.66 tonnes of solid waste is generated per day from multiple sources, but the Sonamarg Development Authority has not been able to establish any kind of treatment or processing plant for the waste. Saving the Virgin Resorts. Citizens and environmentalists are hopeful that the authorities learn from these bitter experiences and save other mountain resorts, Dudpathri, Tosa Maiden, Bangas Valley and Usmarg, which have thankfully escaped ecological destruction so far. The first three are relatively recent additions to Kashmir's tourist map, while Usmarg, though known for decades as an idol, has stayed somewhat away from the limelight. I love going to Dudpathri because there are not so many concrete structures like we see in Gulmarg and Sonamarg, said Bilal Ahmad, a Kashmir resident.